how long does it take to learn poker and to get to your level? It takes an incredibly long amount of time. For me, it's taken 10 years for me to get to where I am today, where I can make a couple $100 an hour and live as a comfortable professional playing high stakes. But it was a very slow, progressive 10 years. Like, my first year of playing, I didn't make any money. Like, I blew a bunch of deposits. I lost a little bit of money. I was playing low stakes. And after a couple years, I started to win small amounts of money. Like, I got to the point I was making $20,000 a year. And now it's like I finally kind of gotten there in poker, so I'm more comfortable and I'm playing high stakes. But it's not a good industry that I wouldn't suggest somebody goes down this road, because the poker economy is just declining. Like, new gamblers are playing, they're playing like fantasy stuff. Bots are a really scary thing for poker. Especially, like, particularly recreational players are very afraid of bots. And that means there's a lot less new money in the poker economy. So 10 years ago, there were people making 8 figures playing poker, 8 figures a year. Is that 10 million? I'm trying to get to 10 million. And nowadays, nobody is doing that. Like, maybe some high stakes live underground guys who are like in Macau or something. But online, like, the biggest winners are making like 2 million a year, and that's going to keep going down, I think. So my professional recommendation is get into poker recreationally. It's a fun game, but getting into it for professional pursuit, it's not a good time. Like, I'm personally in school because I want to make a backup plan, and I'm a psych major at the University of Washington, and I'm just trying to like build a little equity somewhere else in case the bots get on all these sites and I just can't play anymore, man. How did you get so rich? Honestly, dude, I'm not rich. Like, well, I think the average 29-year-old is in debt, so I'm doing better than average. I'm not in debt, but my net worth is not like insane or anything. I'm trying to save up for a Porsche, and I've been trying to save up for a Porsche for like a long, like years. And now I'm getting pretty close, but I'm not, even though I've got a lot of money on the tables, most of it's like, it's poker money, and really I do grind just an hourly win rate, and I also do dumb stuff sometimes and bet on sports or play high stakes against better players than I am. But I have been playing professionally for like 5 years, and I've worked up slowly and incrementally, and I study a lot, and I've invested a lot in learning resources. Like, I pay $100 a month to a training site, and right now I'm actually in the market to get a poker coach for myself. I'm trying to move up to the next level and move from being like a 5-10 player to being a 25-50 player. It's a very tough bump, because the 25-50 players, they also play 200-400. If you want to play 25-50, you're going to be playing with the best names in the game, like Linus Love, OTB Red Baron, Katya, Emma Masherdog, Bit Too Easy. Like, it's very hard to break into the high stakes scene, just because at 5K you run into those guys. So I'm looking for a coach. I'm probably gonna have to pay something ridiculous like $1,000 an hour, but if I find the right person, that's something I'm hoping to do. Yeah, that's a good self-aware comment, Kratox. I mean, a lot of people don't consider those types of those combos, and it's actually, I mean, not to critique your thought process, but it's a common leak from weak regulars is not bluffing enough with like unnatural bluffing hands. Like, people are usually pretty good at bluffing their open-enders and the bottom of their range, but it's a little harder to bluff with kind of funky hands that have no equity and look kind of weird in various random situations. I can talk about people now because I'm getting off global. Donk for life. Not good. He's not good. I'm sure he won a ton of money in the global heyday. I was scared of him because I saw him like playing 10-20 with like 20k stacks every day, and I didn't realize how soft those games were. So I was afraid of him. Not afraid of him, but I assumed that he was a player who had a good chance of being better than me just because of the stacks I was seeing. But that turned out not to be the case. I've played with him a bunch, and I think he's a weak reg. I think I have big edge against him in 6 max and heads up, and maybe he's gotten better, but I've played with him a bunch recently, and I don't think he's good. Just to be very clear about what I mean when I say he's not good, like anybody who's playing high stakes no limit in 2019 is good at poker. Like anybody who's playing mid stakes 1-2 is good at poker, like compared to most people. But I just mean compared to other high stakes regs, he's not as good. And he has some fun, like just theoretical fundamental problems in his game that like that's what I'm talking about when I say I don't think he's very good. He just has some concrete misunderstandings about the game, I think. So I'm always very happy when he's at my tables. And that's something I've never been able to say, but now I'm getting off global, so I can talk about the other regs a bit. Jimmy the Gent, I think, is very good. I think he's probably the best reg on global, as far as I can tell. I haven't played with him a ton, but in the hands I've had with him, he seems to size very well, and he seems to have, it feels like he has very good betting frequencies, bet sizes, like balancing his ranges and stuff. Are you betting a small size 15 into 40 on those 2 flush connected flops in order to be able to bet your entire range? Good question. You're probably going to hate my answer because it's like, okay, if I'm just going to answer the fucking question, like, no, I'm not actually betting my entire range, but yes, I'm betting a lot. So, kind of. But, it's really hard to, like, it's very, very hard to take concrete poker plays and then extract concepts that you can just, like, broadly apply. So it's, like, it's very specific. I'm the preflop raiser, so I have a range advantage, and I want to be betting a lot because of that, and it's very difficult for my opponent to play against a lot of bets on a board like that because he doesn't connect with it very often. So there's a lot of different reasons, and I just will say in general it's very difficult to explain something very simply in one concept. Even though that's how we learn things, it's just very hard to give like one reason for something. Do I work out? No. I have our gym membership at Stone Gardens, which is a rock climbing gym in Seattle, and I was going every day, and then I stopped going for a day, and I haven't gone in 3 months. I'd really like to get back to that, but I just suck and need to do that. Is it weird to watch somebody lie down in their bed and play poker? It kind of feels weird to me. Hey, Daniel Negreanu peed on stream holding his laptop. This isn't any weirder than that. I guarantee you this. I've never had a minus 20k day. My biggest losing days have been 10k, 12k. I've had those a bunch of times. But never had like minus 20k day. Probably because I quit fairly aggressively. I'm a firm believer that you should prolong your winning sessions and you should quit your losing sessions. And not because of tilt from like me, like I know I can play my A game when I'm losing, but my opponents will play worse when they're losing and they'll play better when they're winning. So like if I'm up 10k on a day, I'm going to keep playing because that means the other people are losing a bunch and they're stuck and tilted and they're going to be compromised. And if they're winning a bunch, they're not going to be compromised. Quitting a session is not a concession. It's not a give up, in my view. I see why people would think that, but I don't see it that way. Like, it's fine to quit. It doesn't mean anything, really. I mean, there's some, like, sometimes it means something. Like, there's some people that I've been trying to play with recently that will play, like, 15 minutes at a time, and they quit, and they're kind of, like, trying to pretend like they're willing to play me in battle, but they're not actually, like, they're just sort of, they're like, I'll play a little bit and then quit 3 days in a row, and they don't want to actually, like, slam 5,000 hands of heads up. So that's a little telling. Fear in poker is an interesting one. I totally understand it, and I've experienced it myself. The antidote to fear is strategy, and just understanding poker strategy will resolve fear. It's very scary to make a big bluff if you're not sure if it's a sound bluff or a profitable bluff. But if you've studied a spot and you know what, you have an idea of what's going on, it's not so scary anymore. Example is say small blind versus button when you're facing 4 bets. It's kind of scary to like 5 bet shove all in with like ace 5, pocket 2s, pocket 3s. It's just kind of scary until you get out there and do a bunch of work and build a range, and you're like, oh, this is the best way to build a range.